Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another episode of Found Footage Fridays with my co-host, Tom Raymer.
This is episode 49, the last before our big 50th. I just have to say that. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Can you believe we've been doing it for that long?
No. So next week's the big live episode, but we have a very important movie to talk about this week, one we haven't surprisingly covered yet.
No, but we've wanted to. We've talked about, we've went back and forth about this a few times. Yeah. So today we're talking the 2013 found footage film, Afflicted.
And we can't say what sub-genre this found footage movie fits into because it would spoil the entire film. And we're not spoiling it.
Unlike every other thing we've covered, there is not a cover that tells you the secret of this film.
Right. And I honestly, the first time I watched this, I did not know what it was about. And I think that's how you have to go into this.
Totally agree.
The only thing I could say is it's, as far as like subgenres, travel found footage.
It falls under our summer theme that we're going with.
Summer.
Right? I would say.
Yes. But
it's streaming a couple of places. So if you have Showtime, Paramount Plus, and YouTube Premium or Hulu Premium, otherwise you do have to rent it. But
okay.
And the short synopsis here is just best friends Derek and Cliff plan to travel the globe and live life to the fullest, but only days into the trip, one of them becomes very sick, and they rush to find the source before he gets too sick.
Yeah.
I had to ad-lib the ending because the ending kind of gives some stuff away. So I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah, anyway. I'm glad you didn't. Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's why the ending sounded weird. Sorry. Yeah. So, yeah. What are your thoughts on this before we do ratings?
So this is one, like, I would say this one's not, like, unknown to most people who are into found footage. People know this movie. This one comes up in a list every now and again, people rating their favorite found footage films. So it's not like this one is incredibly obscure, which is probably why it's not available on like Tubi, and you do have to pay to watch this most likely in some form. I maintain that this movie is best seen if you don't know what it's about. So if you are someone watching this episode today and you haven't seen the movie, when we do get to spoilers, you should stop watching this episode and go watch the movie. But no, I would go as far as to call this, it's more mainstream. I don't know that this was ever borderline mainstream. I don't know if this was ever in theaters, but it had to be a much bigger budget found footage movie than the majority that we talk about. Just without me, I don't know this. I'm just saying, based on the cinematography and some of the special effects, it just had to have been because everything looked so good in this movie.
Yeah, from what I saw, I think the budget for this was like $130,000.
That's it?
I think so.
I'm shocked if that's what it was.
You thought it was more than that?
Yeah, definitely. Some of the special.
I have dyslexia. It's $300,000. Sorry.
Even that though, like the special effects in this, they did a great job. That's because that's still like for like a big budget film. That's nothing. It's
$318,000, and then it says it has a box office count. So in the box office, it made $121,000. But I think that has to do with when it came out. I think if this came out now, it would kill at the box office.
Yeah. Oh, that's surprising. One, how much they spent, and then two, it didn't do well. But
and now it has like a bit of a following, though.
Does it?
A little bit. I feel like people who have seen this are like big advocates for it.
Yeah. So this is another one. I think you just were saying, you told me right before the episode started that this movie was written and directed. It's one of those, right? That's
Derek and Cliff, who play themselves in the film, are the actors, the directors, and the writers.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Like, I know we haven't done our ratings yet. That always like adds an extra tape in our rating system for me.
So whatever Tom's rating is, it is now one more tape more.
No. I'll I'll factor that in before I give you my rating.
Just saying. Okay. So, all right. Well, then you give your reading first.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know why I just took a deep breath. That was weird. Um, it's not that.
We're so
It's
close
not.
to
It's
50.
not
We're like
that
coming
serious.
apart at the seams.
It's not that serious or important. So I would rate this movie a. I'm going to give this movie an 8.
Okay.
8 tapes out of 10. I think this is a very good found footage movie.
Okay.
Uh, it's a little bit clean for found footage. And I think that's where my hesitation was. I was gonna give it a little bit lower rating for that reason, but I just think it's so good that I couldn't take off too many tapes for this one. It's really solid. I don't know on rewatch if I would like it quite as much. Maybe I would, but 8 tapes for my first watch.
Okay. Yeah, so I love this one. Um, for reasons you will learn more about obvious or it will become more obvious why when we get to spoilers. But
It's a Bigfoot found footage.
big
It's not. It's not.
That would be unique if you become sick and you become a Bigfoot, make Bigfoot like a werewolf. Like
It would be
just be a werewolf.
It'd be a
movie.
werewolf. Yeah, movie.
I know Tom. I knew what Tom was going to say. So yeah, I love this. I love this movie. I love the story, the background. I love the chemistry between the best friends. I think is one of the best I have seen as far as friendship relationships. They nailed it.
Yep.
And I talked about this when we did Open Water 3 Cage Dive. I love when the relationships are friendships and things like that. Like those always just like they get to me better than like romantic ones. So I loved that. There are some legitimately scary moments in this. Like there's one moment in particular that had me like really messed up when it happened. And but I also really liked some of the happier moments in this. I liked the premise behind why they're traveling, because there is a reason. And I even really love the ending. I this is almost for me, this is almost like a perfect found footage movie. Almost. So I didn't give my reading yet, right? That's what I'm doing.
No, okay. No, I was like, did she give it?
You're like on the edge and you're like, okay, what is it? Okay. So my rating for Afflicted is a 9 for me.
Whoa. I mean, that's not that much higher than me. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is Afflicted is one that is on one of my more like this is higher up on my list of found footage favorites. Not quite top 5, just almost top 10, but it is on the list because it's one that I thoroughly enjoyed. And like Tom said, if you're at this point and you don't know what this film is about, do not listen to the spoilers. Come back and listen to them, but go watch it first. If you have to rent it, it's worth it. It's worth the $4 or $5.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I think if you are a found footage fan, there's a lot to appreciate with it. So yeah, so that's my rating, a 9 out of 10. I love this film. I thought it was really good.
9 and an 8. That's one of our higher rated cumulative scores. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because usually one of us is, the up or the down.
Yeah. There's a few that get this high, but not many.
Yeah. 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 So so I loved this one. I thought this was really good.
Yeah. So is this the point that we tell people to turn off this episode if they don't want to be spoiled?
Yes.
Okay. So if you haven't seen this movie, stop watching now. Go and go watch Afflicted, and we're going to spoil it right now.
Yes. And then come back and finish and leave your comments about
how much you loved it. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah. Ron, if you have not watched it yet, stop watching and go watch it.
We're looking at you, Ron. Yep.
So good. Okay. So let's spoil.
So these are 2 like lifelong best friends, right? Yep. Love that. I love that so much better than like the 3, the love triangle that we see in
Miles better than that. Yes.
90% of
Totally
found
agree.
footage films.
Yeah, totally agree. And their reason for traveling is a really beautiful one because Derek is really sick, or he has like something going on in his
Yes,
brain,
yes, he
something.
does. Yeah,
And so they're like, he basically has like a list of, he wants to go do these things. He wants to experience life before he dies. And that's the reason these friends go on. And that is our motivation for filming to start with.
yeah. They,
It's documenting these new experiences before Derek gets too sick to be able to do them.
yep. And yeah, so he probably shouldn't be going, right?
Correct.
It's definitely a risk for him to be going and doing this. And
Yes.
again, I can't remember exactly what's going on with him, but
I think it's something in the brain because I think they
yeah,
reference it later when it's not there anymore.
right.
Maybe a
So
brain tumor or something.
yeah, one of the first nights out, I think I don't know if they go out partying or what, but he meets up with somebody, and next day something happened to him. His friend finds him in the morning, right, or
And he's
something,
been
and
attacked.
he's
Yeah.
been attacked by this woman that he was
Yeah.
with.
Yep.
Um, and he's all messed up. He's like bloody and battered, and we don't know exactly what happened to him.
Nope.
But I feel like, is he sick the next day? Is that what happens? He's like really not well. He looks terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah, so one of the couple of things that started happening, one of the big ones was they go out to try to eat. The sun is like
right.
bothering him and he's like out and he just feels like it's like a really bad hangover.
Mhm.
And then they go to eat at some restaurant that's kind of like got like an outside area and he violently throws up everything that
Right.
he ate.
Yes. 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 So like
Um yeah.
people maybe at this point have started to figure out as they're watching this movie what happened to him. I mean, I think I figured it out at that point.
Yeah, the throwing up the stuff was the nail in the coffin for me. That was when I realized that's when I realized what it was because they had already hinted at like the sun being too much, right?
Right. Yes. And he's pale, all that sort of stuff. So
Hmm.
should we just say what this is? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so he's a vampire now, right?
Yep.
This is a vampire found footage movie. And so of course he eventually sort of recovers, starts feeling better, and starts developing some other like superpowers, basically, right?
This is like the fun part I
The
was
fun
talking
part of
about,
the movie.
where they're like recording and testing his limitations and
He could like run up walls and jump off buildings and like
run really fast in general.
break
Yeah.
cement bricks. Yeah, they're like having fun with it, and it's really like a light-hearted sort of like break in the middle of the movie. And we all know, having
Mhm.
watched enough horror films, that it's going to be short-lived. Um,
Yes.
and but yeah, part of it is that whatever they go get him checked out, and whatever was going on in his brain,
It's
they do
gone.
like a scan, and it's not there anymore. So that's probably because he's not alive, really. He's a vampire, right? So, am I explaining that the right way?
Well, I mean, essentially, what happens with a lot of vampire lore is that it corrects things in the human body that were messed up before. There's been stories where like scars are suddenly softer or faded out, and
Yeah,
then obviously wounds heal faster and yada yada. So this is just kind of playing
sure.
on the really familiar vampire lore that becoming a vampire fixes all of the human deficiencies.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but things obviously do take a turn.
Yeah.
But where does it go from there?
So he has to be able, the only way he gets to keep up the fun parts is if he consumes human blood.
Right.
And
Of course.
so they kind of go down this weird rabbit hole with that for a little bit, but the biggest thing is they realize that once that's not a thing, he becomes very sick. And so one of my favorite shots this was so scary, is when things start getting really bad, there's like that scene where he cuts on the camera to find him and he's like
Oh yeah.
right next to him
Oh yeah.
and his eyes are like
Black
white and he's got
or
this like
oh
crazy expression on his face
yeah.
and he's like locked into this weird demonic positioning like
Yeah.
ugh, that was so
Yeah.
good.
That was really scary.
That was
But
really scary.
I would say my favorite. So I love found footage that's sort of like these travel, going
Yeah,
to, faraway places and,
yeah.
I feel like, so I forget exactly where they are supposed to be. Do you know where are
It,
they when he gets sick? I actually can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Somewhere in Europe. Um,
Yes.
and my favorite thing with this movie is how good it looks. I've said this already, but like for the budget they supposedly had, I
Hmm.
would say how they did a lot of these scenes, I'm really impressed by.
The makeup, the shots of like that.
Sure,
There's that one scene. So because they decide to go look for the person who turned him, the girl,
yeah,
and it doesn't go very well. And then there's like there's that scene when what's it? Cliff is gone
yeah,
and they and like the emotions, the stress, like they're like Derek is now on his own, he's dealing with this craziness, he's trying to find this woman, he's getting all of these weird, trying to figure it out, and he's being there's that one scene where he's like running through the buildings and he like jumps outside and there's like
yep,
smoke coming off of him, like all of that stuff was like so good. um and then the scene that like really got to me, other than that one that was really scary, is when he feels like there's nothing else to do, there's nothing else he can do, and he tries to kill himself.
yeah, like gut wrenching.
That
Like,
is one of the hardest, but like best shot scenes like that I have ever seen, because he does technically kill himself. He shoots himself in the mouth, but then he wakes back up. And
yep,
so the scar and the picture from the cover
oof,
is the back of his head after it put itself back together
ugh,
after he tried to kill himself.
yep, yeah. So that was really well done. The scenes
And
with him.
sad.
What was that? Oh, and really
And
sad.
sad.
The scenes though with him like scaling the buildings and jumping, like that's like big budget movie stuff. And
I
like
know.
when smaller budget movies try to do those sorts of things, it almost always looks bad,
It
right?
didn't here. Yeah.
It doesn't. And I'd love to know how they did that. And I know you talked about you want to get that guy
I would
on
love
this
to have a
show.
conversation with really either of them. So I watched the found footage phenomenon on Shutter, which was a documentary they did on found footage a
Yeah.
while ago. And Derek, I can't remember if Cliff is also on it. He might be on it as well. One or both of them is on that. And just listening to them talk about this project and found footage and like, oh my God, I would love to like chat
Did,
with them.
did they do any other found footage movies or
I
just
don't
their
know.
one?
I tried to see if they had a social media presence, and I don't know if I'm just daft on how to use. No, I'm not really the best at social media, but I couldn't find either of them. I looked because I was like, I would love to talk found footage movies with these guys. Like, love, love, love to, and I cannot find them. So if anyone knows if they're on social media and Angel just doesn't know how to find them, which is not unheard of, let me know. I would love to
Comments.
follow.
Yeah, please.
Um, yeah, they're really cool and they seem like really down to earth guys and they did everything themselves. So it's very like, it's really cool.
Personal to them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to talk to all these guys and girls and people out there who make these movies
Mhm.
themselves and
Yeah.
essentially put themselves in the movie, direct the movie, write the movie, produce it, like do
Yeah.
everything. I want to talk to more of those people because I think I am so impressed by anybody
Yes.
who can figure that out.
Yeah,
Has
you guys
that
are
much
like rock
talent.
stars for
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm also like one of the reasons I said earlier that it would become obvious why I love it so much. It's a monster movie. I love monster movies.
It's a monster movie. Yeah. It's a
And
scary monster movie too.
it is, yeah. And I, like most girls, had a vampire phase, and I'm like, I love vampires. I know too much. We're not going down that rabbit hole because it'll be a really long episode, but
What's the
I know a
first?
lot.
Where did your vampire phase start?
It started when I was probably about 10 years old. I started watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, I watched Buffy.
Buffy was my intro. Um,
The
and
show, not the
then
movie, right?
the show. I saw the movie after the fact. I know.
Oh, okay.
Sue me. But it doesn't touch the show. So we won't even
Does not.
But the show is like a big deal to me. Like, I love Buffy. And so Buffy was like my origin into like vampires. But from there, when I became like a preteen, like 12, 13 years old, I started reading Anne Rice.
Oh, interesting. Yep.
And so then it shifted into like darker, darker not that the vampires from Buffy aren't dark, but you know what I mean. That it was just a different take on vampires. And then when I was in high school, I had to take German for 4 years because the Spanish classes were full. So I took German for 4 years. My sophomore year in high school, I was in the 10th grade. So I was like 16 years old. I watched Nosferatu for the first time.
Oh yeah, that'll do it.
And so it was an immediate like rocket into, Queen of the Damned, Interview with the Vampire, like the original Draculas with Bela Lugosi, like just really getting into like vampire lore. There's this really small tangent, and then I promise I'm done. There is this woman named Catherine Ramsland who has a PhD in forensic science. I have a book that was like my Bible when I was in high school called The Science of Vampires, where she literally takes every single piece of the mythos of vampires and dissects where it came from based on the way the human body decomposes, like where the snarling of the teeth came from, why people thought people were making noises. She talks about like all kinds of stuff. And I became obsessed. She even did a series on the underground cult that followed Anne Rice novels. But anyway, super into vampires. And she approached it from like a scientific perspective, which only made it cooler. So I'm super into vampires. So when we get into vampires, it's all been done, right? Everything is the same. And this
feels different.
Very cool take. Yeah.
It's very cool. It's really unique. I mean, and is there even another vampire found footage? I guess one of the VHS movies, right?
True.
Right? Is it the first VHS movie, I think?
No, she's a succubus. She's not a vampire. There is a vampire in the VHS series though, right? I think that's right. I don't know. The only other one I know of, and this one was on our found footage live list, but I don't know who all got to it. It was just called Vampires, and it was a YouTube freebie that you could just watch. That one is super good, but it's very fun. Yeah, it's done like a mockumentary.
I've never heard of this.
You would probably really like it. So it's
future watch.
This like, yeah, it's really good. I would love to watch it again. So this girl, these journalists, I think it's more than one person, get the opportunity to interview real vampires in the high society of the nightlife, and it's really good.
Okay, really all right. I will want to watch that. Yeah, definitely.
That's a good one. But other than that, I can't think of any other vampire found footage ones. But this one does it really well because it's completely unique.
There's something about them being so far from home, and I think that's one of the things I love.
Yeah.
On these like sort of like travel, bloggers, is that when stuff goes bad, they're alone in a strange land, strange to them, and I think that makes it scarier in some way, right? So like when he starts getting sick, when they're not near their family, they're out, somewhere that they're, strangers to, and I think that's just makes this movie scarier in a way.
Yeah, it's isolating.
Very isolating. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I loved it. And then, with the ending, from what I can recall of it, I know that we see Cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Cliff comes back to life because Cliff is now also a vampire.
Of course.
and it doesn't really give you like a bow ending, right? Because I feel
No.
like they, from what I know it shows this Cliff coming back to life, and you're just like, oh no, because the thing about this is one of the best things about friendship relationships in horror. Derek, when he loses Cliff, he is devastated. Like his emotional reaction to that was so real, that's how I would look if my best
Yeah.
friend died. Like
Yeah.
and so to know all of the things he was feeling, him trying to kill himself, and then Cliff just like pops back up out of the like he's like, oh, by the way, I'm actually a vampire too. Like that was why I just didn't see that coming. So that was really good.
Yeah. Good ending. Good, but a little unfinished, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely a little more open, more typical found footage actually in that
Absolutely.
regard.
Very typical. And that one aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, that's Afflicted.
Mm-hmm.
When I first watched this movie, honestly, it was in the middle of like the height of the pandemic, and I actually didn't want to watch it at first because of the title. I thought it was about like a more traditional disease or something like that. And I was like,
Totally
yeah,
get it.
not feeling it right
I
now.
thought it was gonna go zombies. When he
Yeah,
threw up, I was like, oh, maybe it is zombies. And then I realized that's not what was
no,
happening.
not zombies. So,
It was good.
uh, so definitely check this one out. And what is next week, Angel? Tell them.
Next week is our 50th episode of Found Footage Fridays.
We need like dramatic music right now.
Well,
Or next
I'll
week.
see if I
Next
can
week.
find that free and edit.
Next week. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so our current plan, and we'll talk more about this, we'll be promoting it more. This past week we did some surveys to kind of judge people's interest in what they'd want to see us talking about. We went more mainstream this time,
Yep.
giving everybody options to kind of voice out with what they wanted to see. So the live is going to be about an hour. I mean, it may go over a little bit, but I don't think it will. We're pretty good with staying on task. It'll be about an hour, but we're going to break down in our traditional format 2 mainstream found footage films.
2.
Which will be announced next Monday after you watch this. But the live itself is going to be next Friday on the 30th.
Yep.
And I think we agreed we're going to start at, I think, 8.
8 o'clock. Sounds
8
good
o'clock.
to me. Yep.
And some fun things. We're going to be doing some giveaways as well. So, we'll do like the first half hour will be the first movie. We're going to do 2 giveaways then, and then we'll do 2 giveaways for the second. You have to be present in the live because the way to win them is to show us your found footage knowledge, either from things that have to do with our show or movies that we've watched, or maybe some things that we haven't seen or talked about specifically, but it'll all be related to found footage. So we'll have a couple of questions people can answer, and then that'll be how they get the giveaway, but you have to be present in the live. And yeah, we're really excited. 50. It's like,
yeah, we're going to give away some fun stuff. And so tell your friends. You can win some. I don't even know. I shouldn't even know if I should say what we're giving away. Maybe we'll keep it a surprise.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, we can wait. We can either promote it right before or talk about it the night of, or maybe you have to be in the live to know.
We'll see.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so we'll be promoting, next all of next week, getting ready to get people hyped. But definitely, if you love this show, come hang out and talk to us, because we get we have a couple of people now that comment almost every week that really enjoy it, and we would love the opportunity to be able to engage with you in live chat. So
stop on by, ask us some questions, win some stuff.
Yeah, sounds like a great time. We are so excited. And we'll be in found footage gear as well, because we do have Found Footage Fridays merch, which is available in my store. 2 different found footage designs, but it comes in a plethora of things: pins, clothing pins, not like brain pins, pins, stickers, shirts, hats, all kinds of stuff, tons of stuff. In fact, I think there's pants. I can't remember, but there's a bunch of stuff on there, so you can check that out too. But we'll be in gear and we'll be ready to talk found footage
live
for the first time since our first live together. Our first live and our second live, all found footage love. So should be really good. So I will as I'm sharing it, I will have already created the link. So I'll be sharing that for people to set up because you can, I
Okay.
think when you click the link, it'll take you to a thing that will ask to be notified. So you'll get notified a few minutes, I think, ahead of time before the live goes live. But yeah, we're really excited. We can't wait to hang out with you guys and talk some found footage.
All right, I hope to see you all there next week,
Yeah.
8 o'clock.
Yep. Next Friday, 8 o'clock. Have a good rest of this Friday. Enjoy your weekend coming up. And Tom and I will see you next week at the live.
See you there.